Yeah.
Very well. You dare to disturb me here? Were I not chained to this deathless existence, I would scatter your shattered bodies to the winds for your trespass. Yet instead, you roam unchecked within my remains, like parasites. What promises shall you make this time? You will learn to find time, mortal. For while you are here to steal for your masters, it is within my power to make your wait a costly one. Lies! Why else would you be here in this, one scar in the earth, were it not at the command of the Ilfarn? I may rest upon the brink of death, but do not think me blind to what transpires on my grave. You are here because you again need my help, though you always refuse the price. Did you think you could cage a power of the plains? I will show you what it means to be caged. Together we shall remain here, to contemplate, to despair, to rot. I have been here for millennia. How long do you think you will last, mortal? Shadow? What shadow?
The King of Shadows has returned to this plane. Know that if he is not stopped...
This changes things. While I hate the Ilfarn, that is but a pale flame compared to my hatred for the King of Shadows. I have not heard that cursed name for a lifetime. My name is Nolaloth Karagazant, but I know the weaknesses of the minds of mortals in shaping such words. You may settle with Nolaloth. Once I was a great power, an ancient being of crystalline might. Once, now no longer.
Nolaloth! You were the worm of legend that fought the King of Shadows.
Are you or are you not of Ilfarn? Dead. Then my last shreds of hope go along with them. It is a wonder that the endless decades have not driven me mad. I have waited for them for thousands of years. I was promised a new life, and instead, I have been abandoned, left to languish in this insignificant crack in the world. And when an eternity had passed, another fragile mortal appeared, no doubt seeking power. He called himself Armanjero, and claimed to be of Ilfarn. He pretended to bring good news, that the glorious Ilfarn Empire had returned to restore me to life. But what he wanted, I will never know. He asked me questions about my past and what happened long ago, and then left. If you are not of Ilfarn, why have you come here to torment me? I would never fight it again. even if I could. And how am I to help, as impotent as I am now? For the mere chance of having a hand in destroying my adversary, I will help you. Ask your questions. In life, many of my kin visited me, to honor me, to seek wisdom, to show respect. They are drawn to my power, though they know not why. Such is the case with all lesser creatures. Because I yet live in a sense, my body has since vanished, but it gave life to dead rock. And as long as I cling to existence, so shall this valley. The people of Ilfan said many things, as did their leaders. They begged, filled the air with promises of glory and wealth, and I listened. Whatever your histories or seers have told you, know that I helped because I was promised the riches of the Ilfan Empire. The hearts of all things are covetous. Mine is not deceitful, as it were. Yes, I suppose it might have. Is that perhaps what you are trying to do now? Good. As you can see, the last 1,000 years have left me with less patience than I had in life. Tread carefully, mortal. The people of Ilfan were desperate. Their once defender, known only as the Guardian, had been corrupted and transformed into the shadowy being that haunts you today. The King of Shadows was once the light of Ilfan. I do not know his identity. I cared little. The history of your people is littered with many such lapses in judgment, granting mortals power beyond the control of the ones they are intended to serve. The King of Shadows was once but an ordinary mortal, a great champion they called him, but still as fragile as the others. He was made into a creature fueled by the weave, tied into the fabric of magic. Its corruption was not the fault of the Ilfan Empire, directly. The Guardian was built to protect them from the Netherese, a kingdom that had learned many of the secrets of Ilfan. However, an archmage of Netheril named Karsus dared to challenge mortality itself. He absorbed all the magic from the weave to ascend to godhood, and for a brief time, the Guardian was stripped of its life essence. Because the Guardian was a creature of the weave, it needed a replacement to survive. Like all creatures, it desired life, so it drew from the only alternate source of magic, the Shadow Weave. The Shadow Weave is a potent but tainted source of power, and it was not long before the Guardian himself was corrupted. The King of Shadows brought despair, and the men of this land wailed loudly enough to get my attention. I answered the pleas out of curiosity. When I confronted the leaders of Ilfan, they saw me as a potential ally in the fight against the King of Shadows. Never before have I met a being as relentless in its devastation. It exists by drawing upon the life and strength of others. As I grew weaker in battle, it only became stronger. Shadow triumphed that day. The Ilfan. I fought the King of Shadows and paid the price for my arrogance. When it left, I was but a broken shell on a lesser plane. Atop this empty rock, I awaited the end. Presumably, your progenitors found a way to triumph despite my loss. They came to me and bound me with primitive magics. The years floated by like specks of dust in the still air. No one returned, and not even death could grant me peace. But many lifetimes later, they arrived, the Githyanki. I had a conversation once with men of the astral plane. They came with shimmering blades in hand, and desperation reflected in their eyes. Always it is about this King of Shadows. I have been deceived countless times by those it torments, and the Githyanki were no different. They came and pleaded for advice, their pathetic cities having been attacked by your adversary. In a sense, your prisons do not seem to be effective. Of course, mortals lack perspective and can hardly be expected to plan beyond a few thousand years. In truth, the King of Shadows had not yet left its prison. Slowly, it was ripping open a portal into the astral plane. This fissure allowed it to manifest itself in an avatar, a powerful Nightwalker. The Githyanki objected to its presence. Many cities fell to the King of Shadows. Even in its Nightwalker form, the Githyanki could not destroy it. Sword after sword shattered upon impact, and more cities fell. The Nightwalker could be hurt, but it could never be hurt enough. Not with 1,000 swords. Somehow, the Githyanki had come to learn that I had battled with the King of Shadows in the past. They promised to restore me if I helped them. Did I know how to empower a weak race? No. I told them to turn their blades upon the growing portal itself, should they be able to locate it. The mongrels left with promises and never returned. I decided that either death, that of the Githyanki or of the King of Shadows, would bring me some measure of satisfaction. Your adversary spreads its influence by corrupting its targets, until they no longer resemble what they once were. Eventually, all one can see is the shadow. It grows long and distracts us from what casts it. But a shadow can never become more than a weak outline. It may stretch and grow fearsomely large, but always must it circle its master. Your blade is no different. If the sword is to be made whole again, you must look past the pale shadows its broken pieces cast, and find the center from where the shadow emanates. If you do not, then there is no way in which the sword may be reformed. That, mortal, is only done through an act of will. There are beings in more chaotic planes that survive through such acts. The Githyanki have strong bonds with their weapons. These bonds are important to the creation of silver swords. Repairing a sword requires incredible strength of will. And how does one teach that kind of power? I cannot. Your sword will never be the same blade as before. No, it can only be a new creation, even if it resembles its old form to a discerning eye. Having all of the pieces may be the least of your concerns, mortal. Then that is where you must go now, mortal.
It will be perilous, but I believe we can use the song portal from the Ilfarn ruins to reach the Guardian ruins on the outskirts of West Harbor.
I can see from your eyes that this is what you came for. Now, I must ask of you. Always I have been promised recompense at a later date. Even now, my mind verges on insanity with the long years. For tolerating your presence, I make but one demand. Kill me.
You wish us to end your life?
This life is an abomination, and I am no longer content to wait for chance to rescue me from the void. In days past, your cries would have been no more than the meaningless buzzing of flies. I must remind myself that this is still the case. To kill me, mortal, you must simply destroy my heart. Be warned, it attracts many beings of power that feed from it, as you have already noticed. My body is no more, but in its place, a new kind of life has sprung into being. My heart is all that remains. The last shreds of my life reside within. You may harm it now that I wish it to be so. Go now. I tire of everything.